What if I told you that a single piece of paper scribbled on in a hurry could be worth billions of dollars? This isn't a movie plot. This is the incredible real-life story of the Koch family, a name synonymous with immense wealth and power in America. Today, we were diving into a bitter family feud that tore four brothers apart and sparked one of the most epic courtroom showdowns in history. This is the story of a battle not just for money, but for control of a dynasty. Our story begins with Fred C. Koch, a brilliant chemical engineer who back in the 1920s developed a new method for refining crude oil into gasoline. He founded a company that would eventually become Koch Industries. He was a tough, demanding father to his four sons, Frederick, Charles, and the twins, David and William, often called Bill. He raised them on a remote ranch, instilling a relentless work ethic. But beneath the surface, tensions were simmering. After Fred Sr. passed away in 1967, his second oldest son, Charles, took the helm of Koch Industries. Charles was a visionary, but also fiercely controlling. He, along with his twin brother David, believed in a radical strategy of reinvesting almost all of the company's profits back into the business, aiming for explosive long-term growth. This meant very few dividends for the shareholders, who happened to be his own brothers. Now, this is where the conflict ignites. The eldest brother, Frederick, was more interested in the arts and historical preservation. He wasn't deeply involved in the day-to-day business, but the other twin, Bill, was a different story. He also worked at Koch Industries, but he constantly clashed with Charles. Bill felt his ideas were ignored, and that Charles was running the company like a personal kingdom, not a family enterprise. He believed to reinvest everything. Strategy was just a way for Charles to consolidate power and freeze out the other brothers. By the early 1980s, the battle lines were drawn. On one side, you had Charles and David, the architects of the company's aggressive growth. On the other, you had Bill and Frederick, who felt they were being cheated out of their rightful inheritance. They wanted to cash out. They wanted their share of the family fortune, which was already substantial. The dissenting brothers, led by Bill, decided to make a move. They gathered allies on the board and planned what was essentially a corporate coup to oust Charles as CEO, but Charles was always one step ahead. He got wind of the plan and, in a dramatic preemptive strike, called a board meeting and fired Bill. The family war had officially begun. What followed wasn't just a disagreement. It was an all-out legal war that would last for nearly 2 decades. The first major event was a buyout. In 1983, Charles and David offered to buy out Bill, Frederick, and a few other minority shareholders. They brought in investment bankers who valued the company. Based on that valuation, they offered the group a staggering sum, $1.1 billion. It was one of the largest private transactions in American history at the time. Bill and his allies accepted the deal and walked away with hundreds of millions of dollars each. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? $1 billion should be enough to smooth over any family argument. But for Bill Koch, it was never just about the money. It was about principle, and perhaps a little bit of pride. A few years after the buyout, Bill started to suspect he'd been lowballed. He believed that Charles and David had deliberately concealed information during the 1983 valuation, hiding just how profitable the company truly was and how much it was projected to grow. So what did he do? He sued. He launched a massive lawsuit against his own brothers, claiming he'd been defrauded out of billions. This is where things get really crazy. The legal battle became a colossal undertaking. Bill Koch reportedly spent tens of millions of dollars on lawyers and investigators, digging into every corner of Koch Industries. He even hired private investigators to go through the company's trash, searching for shredded documents that could prove his case. The press dubbed it the billion-dollar lawsuit. The feud became public and personal. Lawyers for both sides threw everything they had at each other. Charles and David's side portrayed Bill as a disgruntled, greedy brother who was suffering from sour grapes. They argued that he willingly accepted a massive payout and was now trying to get a second bite of the apple. Bill's side painted Charles as a ruthless corporate tyrant who would stop at nothing to maintain control, even if it meant cheating his own family. The case dragged on for years, through depositions, motions, and endless legal maneuvering. It culminated in a dramatic trial in 1998. The courtroom was the final stage for this family drama. The brothers, once raised together on that Kansas ranch, now sat on opposite sides of a courtroom, their lawyers trading blows. It was a spectacle. The core of Bill's argument was that Koch Industries had withheld crucial information about its future prospects, including a major pipeline project and other profitable ventures, which would have massively increased the company's valuation. Back in 1983, the jury was presented with mountains of evidence and complex financial documents. They heard testimony that was often emotional and deeply personal, detailing the breakdown of the family. Imagine having your family's dirty laundry aired out for the world to see, with billions of dollars on the line. After weeks of testimony, the jury had to decide, was this a case of a business deal gone sour? Or was it a calculated fraud committed by one brother against another? The moment of truth arrived. The jury came back with their verdict. They sided with Charles and David. They found that no fraud had been committed. For Bill, it was a devastating defeat. He had spent years and a fortune trying to prove he'd been wronged, only to lose in court. The public showdown had ended, and Charles's control over Koch Industries was now absolute and undisputed. So, what happened next? The story has a surprising epilogue. Despite the bitterness of the nearly 20-year legal war, the brothers eventually reconciled. In 2001, they released a joint statement announcing they had settled all remaining disputes. It was driven, in part, by their aging mother, who wished to see her sons make peace before she passed away. They started spending holidays together again. Bill Koch, who had used his buyout money to become a billionaire in his own right by investing in other ventures, even said of the feud, "We were fighting over money and control, and we were both right." David Koch passed away in 2019, and in his final years, he and Bill had fully mended their relationship. The story of the Koch brothers is a powerful, almost Shakespearean tale. It's a story about family, ambition, and the incredible power of wealth to both build empires and tear families apart. Koch Industries, under Charles's continued leadership, went on to become one of the largest private companies in the world, worth well over $100 billion. One can only imagine what Bill's stake would be worth today if he had never sold. It's a shocking saga of a courtroom showdown that, for a time, captivated America, and gave us a rare glimpse inside one of the world's most powerful and private dynasties. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible real-life events. Let me know in the comments what you think about this epic family battle. See you in the next video.